Thank you so much for coming tonight, or today, if it maybe is a little bit earlier on your coast or where you're coming from. We really appreciate you taking some time today, especially on Mother's Day, to learn a little bit more about Syracuse University and some of the opportunities that you might have exploring in your majors, careers, things of that nature. We're going to go ahead and get started in just about probably 30 seconds to a minute. Want to make sure everybody gets a chance to come in from the waiting room and get started all together. Just to quickly introduce myself, as we are having folks come in from the waiting room, my name is Jessica Schaffner. I'm an assistant director with Syracuse University. I've worked for the university for a little over 5 years, and so I can say I know a little bit about everything. So I'm so excited today to share more with you. Just so you're aware, as we're moving forward in our session, please feel free to ask questions throughout our time together. You can feel free to use that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and ask any of those questions. I do have a colleague in the background, Mike McGrath, who might answer some questions that are a little bit specific to you, but hopefully we have some time towards the end for any really great dialogue about some questions you do have. So I am seeing the numbers settle here, so I am going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing to know about Syracuse University right now in what we're going to be chatting about is really thinking more about exploring next steps. I would assume those of you out there are either a sophomore or junior, really thinking about what comes next. And oftentimes when we're thinking about what we'd like to explore in college, it automatically connects to what academic areas am I really interested in. I'm assuming based off of the fact that you are here today, you are interested in maybe that social sciences area. So we've really designated that as social justice, government, and policy. So we're going to explore today some of the options and things to look out for if that's an area of interest to you. We're going to be chatting for about 20 to 30 minutes, so nothing too crazy long, I promise. I will also share with you, this is actually part of a series that we are doing. So if maybe you're exploring still what majors and areas of interest you might have, I encourage you to go to our YouTube page and maybe check out those other sessions that we have done, exploring the humanities. Another one has explored the STEM field, the communications areas, things of that nature. So those are just some things to check out if maybe you're more on that undecided track, figuring out overall what you might be interested in. But for today, and those of you out there, I would love to start off really by posing a question to you. And by using the Q&A function, I would love to hear your answers to this. So today, obviously, our session is about social justice, government, and policy. So when we say that, what are the type of careers that come to mind for you? What do you think you'd like to explore as an ultimate career, as that professional aspiration? So just by using that Q&A function, if you could throw in some kind of ideas that you have of professions or careers, that would be great. So I'll give you a couple seconds here to use the Q&A function and answer that question. Okay, lawyer's a big one, absolutely. A journalist, excellent. Policy making, governmental translators, phenomenal. Okay, seeing some other options here. Fabulous. Environmental lawyer, excellent. Foreign service officer, phenomenal. Lawyer again. Lawyer tends to be a pretty popular one, I would say, for this group, but also a lot of students that I talk to. Political scientist, absolutely, maybe going into policy making or ultimately going into a governmental role. Phenomenal. These are really wonderful answers. So thank you so much for going into that. Lawyer working in Congress, phenomenal. Thank you all so much. So to start off here, I want us to really, kind of dive a little bit deeper into that idea of what are those aspirational careers that we might have when we're thinking of social justice, when we're thinking of government, policymakers, things of that nature. And for many of you out there, this might be really obvious. This might be an area that you've already really thought about, really understood in terms of a trajectory that you would love to have. But if maybe you're still deciding what area of interest kind of fits you and who you are and ultimately what aspirations you have. These are some of the areas that ultimately students are going into, right? Advocacy, this comes in a lot of different areas. Maybe working for a non-for-profit or an NGO, a non-governmental organization. Maybe being that advocate in terms of social justice is something really important to you, of creating policy changes, of affecting others, and really thinking of kind of creating new pathways. So that's a really great thing to think of when we're understanding advocacy. Communication, somebody said a journalist, absolutely. What's great about this area we're discussing is it crosses over in so many different fields. So for communications, maybe you're really interested in being a political journalist. Maybe you want to discuss what is going on in current policy and educate the mass populace, right? Maybe that's being in front of a camera. Maybe that's actually doing more written journalism. Those are really great ways to think about. A lot of times we don't think of education, but education is a wonderful way to think of that kind of social sciences career. Maybe it's actually being a social studies teacher. Maybe you have a teacher in high school that you've really connected to in social studies. Maybe you've taken US history, government and politics, things of that nature. And that's actually why you're here tonight, that a teacher really made a huge mark on you. So that could be one way. But again, it could also be creating policy changes in education. This is something that, especially during COVID times, has been something a lot of folks have been discussing of what kind of educational policies can we create, can we nuance, can we shift to make sure that we're really supporting generations of students moving through that system. Lots of you said law. I would say this definitely tends to be one of the most popular areas in the social sciences. We'll discuss a little bit more here at Syracuse about our pre-law track in a bit. But generally, please know when we're thinking of law, you don't necessarily have to study law in undergrad because you're going to do that at a law school after you graduate from your undergraduate career. And that's when you can really fine tune that area of law that you might be interested in. Politics and policy, research. These are kind of the capstones, I would say, of a lot of this area, what most people tend to think of as well. I would say these bottom three tend to be pretty popular when we're thinking of the social sciences, but overall, we really want to think that the social sciences are a broader academic area, right? And so when we're thinking of those academic areas, why even pursue a career in this? Right? You might have an aspiration. And again, this might be something that is a pretty easy answer for you already if you've really been thinking deeply about why social justice, policy, government, why this area of social sciences. But again, for those of you who might still be thinking about this in the back of your mind, deciding if this is an area of interest to you, some of the critical areas that we like to talk about in terms of why is this career beneficial to students is really the strengths in communication, problem solving, and critical thinking. Many of the classes that you're going to take within the social sciences, no matter what major you ultimately decide to take, are going to be very cross-disciplinary. They're going to be discussion-based, they're going to be heavily geared towards writing skills, because these are things that you're going to need no matter what area of a professional branch you go into, right? You want to be a strong communicator. You want to be able to consistently write at a high level. And when we're thinking of problem solving and critical thinking, those are two cornerstones of the social sciences. When we say that it's an interdisciplinary approach to the social sciences, that very basically means that we're going to ask you to think outside the box, right? It is not a straight shoot answer. It is not a one fit for everyone. Is everybody is going to take different opinions, different knowledge levels. And with this interdisciplinary approach, you can really guide yourself into new ways of learning. And that's really exciting. And that's something that you're going to have in the classroom, but it mirrors things that you'll have in the professional field as well. The next piece is job availability and security. When we're thinking of these areas of the social sciences going into many of these careers we just discussed, is the job availability is vast. There are constantly different areas our students are able to step into after graduation. Oftentimes, our students that are doing internships, after their sophomore year, junior year, they're ultimately getting placed in sometimes the same profession, that same business, that same organization as a full-time employee, because we have this name recognition, we have that level of security for students to be able to continue through. These kind of last pieces here, long lasting educational foundation with transferable skills. That in particular, I kind of alluded a little bit in the beginning, but these areas of professional building are going to be strong across many different fields. And so if you graduate and start in, let's say you wanted to be that lawyer, that's ultimately what you wanted to do as you graduated, and it shifted once you graduated, you decided, you know what, I actually want to do more policy making, or I'd actually like to do more advocacy work. All the skills that you are going to learn in the social sciences will allow you to very easily rotate to different areas of impact. And the last piece here, opportunity to impact society and future generations. When I talk to students who are interested in the social sciences, I would say that this tends to be one of the leading reasons that they ultimately want to go in that area, is that they see that they can create a strong societal change. And that's something really important to them, something they feel really is a key aspect of who they are and kind of what they do as even a high school student, right? Maybe you're part of Model UN or mock trial, or you love being part of community service organizations. Those are all things in high school that might show you you'd love to have that larger impact on others as a career. That's something that you're passionate about now in your extracurriculars. Why not create a passion as a profession as well? And so that is, I would say, something that is a real cornerstone for students who tend to move in this direction. Now, obviously, I wanted to give you that foundation as we continue to explore really social justice, government, and policy. But as we move forward together, we're going to chat a little bit more about selecting maybe the right major, opportunities here at Syracuse University in particular, and how we may fit into your college plan. So we'll dive a little bit deeper in those areas. I do encourage you, if you do have questions, to feel free to use that Q&A function as well. But as we go through, I do want to just give a very brief overview of the university. Now, if you want a little bit deeper dive into what Syracuse University can offer you, I do encourage you to go to maybe one of our specific information sessions. We host them all throughout the week. They're also virtual, so they're really great opportunities to explore the university in depth. But just to give you a little bit of a taste right here, Syracuse University, you can see on this page, is a traditional university. What we mean by traditional is that all of your classes, your residence halls are really in a one-stop shop location. So you have that very quintessential college experience. As a whole, Syracuse University is considered a mid-sized university of about 15,000 undergraduate students. Now, those 15,000 undergraduate students are ultimately comprised of 10 different schools and colleges, which I know sometimes as I say that, the students will say, well, where are all these schools and colleges? They're all on one campus. They're actually pictured here for the most part. They're buildings right next to each other. So again, you're still having that very quintessential college experience. But when we're thinking about really starting at Syracuse University and thinking about those 10 schools and colleges, please know that we do allow you the flexibility to explore many different opportunities. Know that about 40% of our applicant pool applies in as an undecided student, and our average student changes their major twice by the time that they graduate. So it really does allow you that academic flexibility. But because we're really talking about the social sciences as a whole, we wanted to give you some options of different careers, but as well different majors that many of our students have started off in. So you can see from this page, the social sciences is vast. It is extremely large scale, and it really allows our students to find their passions in many, many different academic areas. So I always like to talk to students about what does it mean to have the right fit major? Is there a one major that fits a certain professional career? I can say with, my flat 5+ years of working at Syracuse University, this does tend to be one of the most popular questions I get asked from high schoolers overall is what is the right major for X career? This is what I want to do as a career. What do I need to study? Now, kind of go back to about 5 minutes ago as I was chatting about those different career spaces and those different opportunities. The best part about many of these careers is that if you have an idea of what career you want to do and you're thinking about what major you want to do, they do not have to exactly match with one another. We're not talking about, you have to be an electrical engineering student to be an electrical engineer later as a career. We're talking about career paths that really are asking you to be critical thinkers. We're asking you to be problem solvers, asking you to think outside the box in creative and nuanced ways. You can do that across almost any different major that we do offer you. And so that's the great news about the area you're interested in is just the diversity of options overall. You can see here that many of them are going to be located within that social sciences area, which specifically for us is housed out of Maxwell School. It's connected to our College of Arts and Sciences within that overall liberal arts area. But some of our students will major in very nuanced areas. For example, our food studies program listed here. Our food studies program is out of Falk College, which is our sports and human dynamics college. Food studies, you don't necessarily think of in terms of, let's say, a career in law or research or things of that nature. But actually, our food studies is specifically made for students who are interested in going into policy. Many of our students through the food studies program are looking at sustainability. How can we make really food sources a more green opportunity? That tends to be a pretty large research area for them. So that's just one nuanced way that we can think of majors in many, many different ways overall. Overall, please know that this is a very small splattering of majors that we do offer. Syracuse offers over 200 majors and over 100 different minors to select from. So again, there is a vast amount of opportunities to explore. It's really a journey to explore the classes that you like, that you're passionate about. It's about trying new classes and new things. University is very, very different than high school, right? When we're thinking of your college career, you are not limited to specific classes that you must take. I encourage you when you get to college to explore classes that you've never even thought about, that maybe you've never even heard about. That's actually how I, as a college student, years ago, found my major. I went to college thinking that I wanted to work in educational policy. So I was really interested in political science and really thinking about how can we shift education so that more students can go to college. Kind of makes sense in terms of my career trajectory now. But at that time, honestly, I wasn't that excited by the political science classes I was taking, and I was a little bit lost of what was something I was really passionate about. And as I take a step back as an adult now, I can say I was passionate about helping others, about diversity, about equality and equity, social justice. These are things that were really important to me. And so when I was in my undergrad, my second semester freshman year, and ended up taking my first Africana Studies class, and it was actually called The Misrepresentations of the 1960s Black Power Movement. And at 18 years old, I was like, well, I've never even heard of this. Definitely going to take that class. It changed my entire trajectory of ultimately what I found fascinating, what I wanted to learn, what I was passionate about. And it really allowed me to figure out that I did not have to be a political science major to be in a change maker in education, that I could take a different approach overall. And so that's something that we really encourage our students to do is find out academically what you are passionate about. And then as a university, we will help you change that passion and connect it to a career. That part is easier, right? We can help you create those connections in terms of internships, research, job prospects, etc. But what you need to focus on is just figuring out what is exciting to me, what is nuanced to me, what is interesting for me to sit in a lecture hall and discuss overall. Now, as we're thinking specifically at Syracuse University, some of the aspects that do make us a little bit special, especially in terms of the social sciences as a whole, is we are an R1 rated research institution. Now, I know a lot of students who are in the social sciences in these areas don't think of research first, right? You're like, that's for the STEM students. Well, in fact, when we're thinking of research, many of our students are going to be encouraged within the social sciences to think of a question that they are curious on. And that very basically is research. We actually have over 40 different research centers on our campus. And so it does allow our students to be very curious, to ask different questions, to work along faculty members and their peers to answer these very nuanced questions that they ultimately have. Outside of that, I saw that many of you did say that you had an interest in becoming a lawyer one day. Well, again, that means that you're going to have to go to law school. And so for us, we encourage students to take any major that they're interested in across the university, but absolutely add on that pre-law advising track. That's something that you can add on once you're a current student on our campus. And it does allow for one-on-one advising outside of just your academic area. And so it does allow you to really have a close connection with somebody in the pre-law advising office that will connect you with opportunities in terms of internships, in terms of shadowing experiences. Syracuse University also has our own law school. And so we do have kind of one accelerated program that's going to be our 3+3 program with both Whitman, which is our business school, as well as SU Law. Pretty famous alumni of Syracuse Law is our current president, Joe Biden. So that's always a fun fact to be able to share. But it also allows our students who are interested and intrigued in some of those law aspects to have that close connection of us having a law school on our own campus. Last but not least, something we really encourage all students to explore is studying abroad. Syracuse University is actually currently ranked as the #7 study abroad program in the country. So there are many different opportunities. I would say one of the biggest opportunities in terms of our students who are specifically interested within that government policy and social justice area does tend to be our domestic program in Washington, D.C. So this is our center. So it's our facilities, faculty, and staff that are actually located in DC, and our students can do a full semester there. It does tend to be, again, extremely popular for our students within the social sciences area because it's required to do a full-time internship while you're there. So you actually take 1 to 2 less classes, and then you're going to add on that internship. So our students who have done internships during their study abroad experience at NGOs, even the White House, the Pentagon, with Congress. So really, we've had very, very far-reaching success with our students who have used that. But also some of our students are able to find internship abilities at many of our different centers. So we have 5 abroad centers, 3 domestic centers, and then partner with about 100 other colleges in 60 other countries. So it does allow for our students a really vast amount of study abroad options. So as we kind of walk through a little bit more about Syracuse University, I'm not going to spend too much time on talking about clubs and organizations, but I think it's really important to know that activism as well as social justice presentations are a really large piece of Syracuse University. It's something that we find to be an extremely big piece of a Syracuse University experience. And so this happens in a lot of different ways. It happens in terms of our students feeling like they have a voice to share with the constituents of their peers, as well as university leadership. I would say that our students are the driving change makers on our campus. To me, as a staff member, that's extremely exciting to know. Because as a staff member, I'm old compared to you, right? So I might not have the same feeling that you do on a lot of things. I want you to share your voice because I hope that you can do it on our campus, but you can take that voice and become a change maker once you leave our campus and get into your professional career as well. And so we really encourage our students to have their voices heard, whether it is talking about aspects of campus, aspects of Central New York, the community at large. You kind of get to decide what you would like to share and what's important to you. Because we offer over 300 different clubs and organizations, we offer hundreds of presentations throughout the year for students to be able to go to, different lecture series, etc. There's so many different ways that you kind of add on these experiences to your classroom options. All right. The last piece that I just want to really quickly touch upon is what can you do now, right? We've kind of chatted a little bit more about what does it mean to have an interest in terms of social justice, government policy, what are different academic areas you can go into, what are even some professional areas you can go into. But right now, as a high school student, what do you need to be thinking about in terms of making these next steps? I mentioned that the purpose of tonight was to really give you that brief overview, but I want to go a little bit more into really what can we do in the next steps now. As I said earlier, you're likely a sophomore, likely a junior in high school. So let's chat a little bit now about what you can maybe do in terms of class structure. Many of you might have already created your classes for this coming year, and that's phenomenal. Please don't take me what I'm chatting with you about right now as a reason to go talk to your counselor that you need to completely change your schedule, because in reality, what we're really looking for in terms of a curriculum for students in the social sciences as a whole is really that you're preparing yourself for collegiate work. It does not mean that you have to take every single advanced class within the social sciences. It does not mean that you have to now add tons of extra classes on to make sure that we really see that the social sciences is your area of expertise. What we want to see on that transcript is that you've challenged yourself in your curriculum, that you've enjoyed the classes that you've taken, because ultimately we can see the classes that you tend to like the best, you tend to do the best in them, right? You kind of give the most effort in those. When we generally are saying we want a college prep curriculum, it means 4 years of really those social sciences, English classes, math, as well as science, and then 3 years in a foreign language. Please know we understand that's not a one size fits all. Sometimes students will, not be able to take a third year of a foreign language, and so they take another class of equal rigor instead of that, right? And we understand that each high school offers a different curriculum. And so if you do have questions on this, you can always feel free to reach out to us. But please know that we just generally want to see that students are challenging themselves within that curriculum as a whole. Outside of that, we do encourage students to try to move into clubs, organizations, community service that might show you have an interest in the social sciences. So some of the examples I shared earlier were things like Model UN, maybe student government, community service and volunteering opportunities, maybe working with an advocacy group in your area. Those are all really wonderful aspects, but also know that, again, it's not a one size fits all. If it fits in your schedule to add these things on or to continue to be a part of them, fabulous. But if you are, let's say, a three-sport athlete and your time is pretty much only taken up by practices, games, and your academics, that's fine. You do not need to overdrive yourself in terms of all of these other areas. We just generally want to see that students are really utilizing their time outside of the classroom successfully, and that they're going to be able to do that on our campus as well. I would encourage everybody to really think as they move into the summer, though, of thinking of some really awesome summer college programs. So, Syracuse University actually does offer a summer college program. It's very, I would say, nuanced. We offer over 70 different programs each summer. We do have some financial aid and scholarship opportunities with that as well. But as a whole, summer college programs are a really great way to get a taste for a certain academic area. So if right now you're saying, I really think I do want to go into political science, but I'm not sure how that fits in what I ultimately love because I haven't gotten a chance to take a very specific political science program in high school. A summer college class might actually allow you to get a little bit of a taste for that. And most colleges and universities across the country do offer these types of programs. Some of them are for credit. Generally, those are 4, 6, or 8-week programs, whereas some of them might not offer credit. Those are generally 2-week programs where you're really just getting a very quick, short taste of that academic area as a whole. So those are just some opportunities that we do suggest to students to look into if it's an affordable option available to you and you feel comfortable doing so overall. But of course, it is, again, not a one size fits all. So if it doesn't fit for you, that is completely fine as well. So on that note, I just want to thank everybody so much for taking a little time, learning a little bit more about Syracuse University, many of these different academic areas. I've seen some questions that have come in, so thank you so much for kind of answering some of those, Mike, in the background. But I do have some questions that I'd like to answer live for the good of everybody. If anybody else has questions as I'm going through these, please feel free to quickly throw them in the Q&A before the end of our time today. So the first question I have is, does Syracuse require 4 years of foreign language, or can we take more, for example, an AP history class? So I think that's a really great question. And I think I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I don't think I went into enough detail earlier, is that we do look generally for 4 years of your core classes. Again, those are going to be your social sciences, so things like history classes, things like that, your English courses, your science, and math. So those are the four kind of core areas. And then foreign language, we do look for 3 years of. However, if you are taking a class instead of foreign language, it should be a class of equal or stronger rigor. So that means if you're talking with your college counselor, they feel like, maybe you haven't done that hot in foreign language, maybe you are really strong at social sciences, and so you want to take a different class, or a different class that is a little bit more interesting to you. One, you should always talk to your college counselor about it, and then really make sure that it matches what your ultimate goals are to going to college. But two is that, generally speaking, as long as we see that you are challenging yourself, it's not going to be a big deal. Again, it's not a one size fits all. But again, that's always something you want to talk to your college counselor about, as well as you can always reach out to us about that as well. So great question. How early can I study abroad? So we actually have a program called the Discovery Program, where you can study abroad your first semester as a Syracuse University student. And so with that, you could study abroad immediately, pretty much. But if that's maybe not your cup of tea, you want to wait a little bit, we have students that study abroad their sophomore, junior, and senior year as well. And so really, as a first year student, the only option for you would be that first semester through the Discovery Program. So I would definitely encourage you to look into that if it's something of interest to you. It's definitely a very unique experience, really offers a lot of independence for first year students. It does allow students generally to study abroad more than once if they've gone through the Discovery Program. So that's something that is a great opportunity. But outside of that, we do offer really study abroad programs at any point in the year. We have summer study abroad programs that are short-term winter study abroad programs, generally over the winter break. And then we have those traditional study abroad programs that are generally the first or second semester, sophomore, junior, senior year. Most popularly, I would say students study abroad their junior year, but again, we do offer other options. Great question. I'm wanting to do running start for my junior year at my local community college. How is that looked at by the advisors at Syracuse? Tori, this is a great question. And maybe you want to just talk a little bit more about what the running start is. And I'm sure Mike could probably answer that within the Q&A for you. I'm going to just take a leap and say that the running start program allows you to have more dual enrollment credits, take in more college classes, that offers a higher level of rigor. So I hope I'm right on the right page by answering it this way. But I would say that, any chance that you have rigor in your curriculum, we're going to look at it favorably, right? You're going above and beyond what the base minimum is at your high school. And that's something that we really encourage students to do as a whole. Now, when we say we encourage students to do that, please know that we encourage you to do it as long as you can be successful in it, right? We don't want students to set themselves up by taking all of these advanced classes, but then they don't think they can be successful in it. Now, if you can be successful in a very, very rigorous curriculum, all the kudos to you. But we really encourage students to challenge themselves in appropriate ways that really make sense in their curriculum, that makes sense for them and their lives as a whole, so that you have this perfect match of being, academically strong, having strong grades within those rigors, but also enjoying your high school career, of having the balance between all of those different areas. So hopefully that helps. Can you speak more about available internships in government, both in the Syracuse area and nationally? Absolutely, Tracy. So, when we're thinking about internships, I would say one of the biggest places when we're talking about in government nationally, our students are getting those does tend to be that Washington, D.C. center that I spoke a little bit about earlier in terms of a study abroad experience. Again, that does tend to be pretty top tier for many of our students. Many of the students are doing work both in like nonprofits as well as national government opportunities. So there is a really large mix there. When we're thinking more Syracuse, New York area, because we are a smaller city, we have students a lot of times working in the DA's office. Generally, on an average year, we have between 7 and 10 students interning at the DA's office. So that's a really wonderful opportunity. Outside of that, a lot of our students are able to do internships with the mayor's office, Ben Walsh. That's another really great opportunity that our students have been afforded. And then in a lot of our kind of running years of kind of having new senators and new state officials, that's something else that a lot of our students are able to get involved in. So it kind of depends on the student, but what I can say as a whole is that there's absolutely opportunities there. One of the biggest benefits, I would say, of a Syracuse University education in terms of advising is that students get 3 advisors when they come to Syracuse. You get your academic advisor, you get your peer advisor, as well as a career advisor. So Syracuse, because we have 10 different schools and colleges, we also have 10 different career centers. So that means that your career advisor is from your school's career center. So that allows us to be extremely nuanced and specific in those areas of professional, I would say, expertise that many of the students are going into, right? When a student is interested in government, they're not talking to the same advisor that also has an interest for a student going into architecture or musical theater, right? Those different schools have different career centers. So it allows us, again, to be much more specific in those advising opportunities. So hopefully that helps you. How should we prepare to know if a college is a good fit for us? Ooh, this is a phenomenal last question. So thank you so much, Allison, for asking it. So I would say there's a couple different ways, and I would say it's a little bit more difficult in kind of the COVID era right now, but you kind of have to take a little bit of a nuanced approach. So when we're thinking of a good fit college, the first thing that you want to start to do as a student is talk to your college counselor. So I know every college counselor has different scheduling kind of criteria, has different caseloads. So if you can't necessarily connect to your college counselor, the advice I would say is that you need to start to designate what do you like in a college? Do you want a small college? Do you want a medium-sized college? Do you want a large college? Right? What type of classroom structure do you do really well in? Do you really need small classes to be able to be successful? Or do you think you can function in a variety of different classes, right? There's some colleges out there that'll say to you, we do not offer any classes larger than 30 and our average class is 9, right? Is that something that's really exciting to you? Or is that a little bit scary and that you want a little bit more because you want more diversity of thought? You want larger classrooms so you can meet more people. Do you want to be in a really urban center or more of a rural or suburban center, right? Kind of these ideas of what types of colleges are going to be of interest to me, that'll allow you to start to narrow down the funnel of about 4,000 colleges across the country into smaller buckets. Now, once you start to get a general idea of what type of college is interesting to you, I would suggest as much as possible, and especially, once more and more folks start to get vaccinated and we start to open up to more and more tours, is go and tour campuses, right? Talk to the different colleges you're interested in, see if they offer on-campus tours. Syracuse University is offering on-campus tours for prospective students. And so that's definitely something that you can look into if you're interested in us. But I would really start to narrow down with the tours of, did I like this campus? Did I walk on? Did it feel comfortable? Can I see myself being successful here? And then as you move forward, start to really look at things like finances, academic structures, things of that nature to ultimately see if this college is a good fit for me. that was a lot to give you in one kind of fell swoop there. So hopefully it makes sense overall, but I thought that was a phenomenal ending question. So I really appreciate that. But at this stage, I just want to thank everybody so much for spending the last 30-ish, 40-ish minutes with me learning a little bit more about what Syracuse University can offer you in terms of this academic setting, but also really exploring if social justice, government, and policy might be of interest to you. I encourage you as you move forward, as you continue to look at colleges and maybe explore a little bit more Syracuse University, reach out to us. We would love to connect with you. We would love to answer any questions that you do have. This is our general office email as well as our phone number. We would love to help you through this process as much as possible. But on that note, again, I just want to say thank you to all of you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your school year. Have a wonderful summer overall, and we hope to stay connected with you throughout your search process. So thank you so much and have a great one. Bye-bye.